Hello, everybody. This is Carrie Mighton, and I am the founder of Motivational Speakers and Motivational Speakers Media. And I'm really excited today to present John Maher. John, am I saying your last name right?
Yes, John Maher. Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, good. I bet a lot of people say it wrong, don't they?
Thank you.
Yeah. So look, one of the reasons I wanted to bring John on today is because John is the go-to speaker when it comes to speaking about risk, especially in the insurance space. And he gets called into schools across Australia and across the continent, really. He's spoken all over the world on risk, a lot for insurance companies, and especially in schools for road safety. And John has a really unique story, and I'm going to let him share it with you because it's pretty incredible. And what he's had to overcome personally throughout many periods of his life has been absolutely incredible. Another thing a lot of people bring John in to speak about is he's an unbelievable motivational speaker when it comes to difficult situations or challenges with families, as he's had to overcome some really unique challenges that he's going to share with us today. So without any further ado, John, thank you so much for making time to do this episode today.
Thank you, Carrie. It's absolutely my pleasure. And I hope everyone enjoys this because I give about 100 of these presentations every year. 80 go at secondary colleges and anywhere between 20 and 30 to corporate events throughout Australia and actually internationally as well. And I tell people my story, and it's not just my story, it's my family story. And to do that, I go back to Saturday, the 3rd of April, 1993. And the place is Axedale, a beautiful little town, 30-minute drive just outside of Bendigo in central Victoria. And that's where we lived, on a beautiful property just outside of Bendigo. Back then, I was aged 42. And I know you're looking at this and you're thinking, well, I still look like I'm aged 42, but I'm actually in my 60s. So this was back in 1993, this photograph was taken. And my wife, she still looks like she's in her 40s. She looks beautiful. And the reason she does is because she gets looked after by me. And, of course, we had to have 4 beautiful children. And back in 1993, Michelle was aged 20. Katrina was aged 18. Jasmine 16, and our youngest Carmen was aged 15. So we had 4 beautiful daughters and an incredibly happy family. I was doing really well in my business. I was the manager of an insurance office in Bendigo. I had 38 people working for me, and I managed their businesses and managed that office. We were in the top 10 offices in the country for the insurance company. So we were incredibly successful. And that insurance company were trying very hard to get me to go to head office, but I wanted to bring my family up in the country, and that was the life that we wanted. I'm now going to fast forward in our lives just one day to Sunday, the 4th of April, 1993. Once again, it's Axedale, a beautiful little town just outside of Bendigo, and it was a magnificent Sunday morning. Ange had gone off to church, and that particular morning I decided not to go to church because I was the captain coach of the cricket club, the Sedgwick Cricket Club. We'd won the premiership, so we were having barbecues set up on Axe Creek, and we were going to celebrate what we'd achieved for the year. And Ange and the girls were going to come out to the barbecues after church. Little did I realise I was actually going to go to a car crash. And I went to my car crash that morning. And as I was going into Axedale, I was in the 80-kilometre zone, and I was driving Michelle's car, the bottom car. I was in the 80-kilometre zone slowing towards 60, and I saw the 4-wheel drive coming out of the 60-kilometre zone towards me. I noticed it lose control, so I came to a complete stop on the highway and I sat there. The 4-wheel drive veered across the road really quickly in front of me. It looked like it was going into the trees on my side of the road. Instead, it swerved back again. It rolled up the highway towards me. It bounced so high in the air that I lost complete sight of it above the roofline of my car. And then for me, the lights went out. I was knocked unconscious. And when I came to for the first time, I heard some guy outside the car saying, "Whoever is in there has got to be dead." The reason he was saying that was because the roof of Michelle's car was either on or below the door sills all the way around the car. What had saved my life was that both front seats had broken and laid back into the back seat, and I was squashed in my seat between the roof and my seat. I heard him say that, and I called out and I said, I'm okay in here, and I immediately passed out. I was to learn later that I was trapped in that car for an hour and 50 minutes, and I can only remember 3 to 4 minutes maximum of the time that I was in the car. Sometime later, can you imagine this? Ange is coming home from church in Axdale. She was screaming out to me from outside the car. She was the third car on the scene, so this was an awful shock to her. When I heard Ange calling out, I said, Ange, I'm okay. I've got a broken nose, a broken jaw, 2 broken legs, a broken foot, but a particular part of my anatomy was still intact. She said the 2 guys had a bit of a laugh at that. She didn't, but she did say that it did ease the situation considerably. And to be honest, I had no idea why I would have said anything like that, because when I was waking up in that car and realising that I could not even move an arm, I was squashed in there. And to me, it was midday, but everything was pitch black because the roof was hard down on my face and I couldn't even move. And I was thinking to myself, if this car catches on fire, I'm going to get burnt to death. Sometime later, I'd passed out again after speaking to Ange, and sometime later an ambulance officer woke me up trying to put a drip in my arm. When he realised I was awake, he said, what's your name? How old are you? Do you know what day it is? And do you know what's happened? I answered all of those questions, and he said, mate, I can't believe it, but I think you might be okay. I then said to him, how are the people in the other car? He said, the young lady is deceased. I passed out again. The next time I can remember anything really clearly, I woke up in St John of God's Hospital in Bendigo. I'd had 2 operations. I had machines all around me, tubes out of me everywhere. And when I woke up, Ange was sitting beside the bed. I looked at Ange and the first words out of my mouth were, am I going to make it? Because honestly, I thought I was dying. I felt like I was dying. Ange said, the doctors are really happy with how you've come through the operations and you're going to be okay. So the result of the car crash was that there was 1 death. I was really seriously injured. And I can tell you that my life, my family's lives and the lives of so many of our friends were changed forever from that day onwards. Here I was, aged 42 years old, in intensive care fighting for my life. I was the manager of an insurance company. I was incredibly successful, captain coach of a cricket club, still playing Super Rules football. I was the vice president of the trotting club in Bendigo. I was giving tips on the TV every couple of weeks on the races. So everyone around Bendigo knew me. And here I was at 42 years old with my life stopped in its tracks. Emma Hayward was aged 18 years and 24 days. Emma had had a licence for just 23 days when she lost control of her 4-wheel drive, rolled up the highway, crashed into my car and lost her life. Thank heavens that car crash wasn't my fault. I was stationary. I met Emma's dad 6 weeks later, 2 days after I got out of hospital. The very first thing he said to me was, John, I'm really sorry for what's happened to you. And that tells you what him and his wife were like. They were wonderful people. We met them twice. He then said, I bought my daughter a 4-wheel drive to keep her safe, and I've killed my only child. Not only was Emma an only child, she was also an only grandchild. And 8 months later, Emma's mum and dad split up, never to get back together again. One thing that I was really quickly learning was that a car crash is not just a car crash. A car crash is a game changer, it's a life changer, and it can be a life taker. So how was my life affected? I have frontal lobe damage, a brain injury. I have really serious short-term memory problems from that, and that is my worst long-term injury. I have 26 plates and screws in my face, which is fine because I give them a tweak every now and then to tighten the skin and make myself look beautiful. I have neck and back problems, and they are serious. I still go to Shane Maloney, my physiotherapist in Bendigo. I now live in Ballarat, but I drive back to Bendigo every 6 weeks to go to Shane. My treatment is paid for by the Traffic Accident Commission and always will be. I spent 2 years in counselling because I struggled with the fact that an 18-year-old girl, the same age as Katrina, my second eldest child, was killed in my car crash. And yes, I knew the car crash wasn't my fault, but I was struggling. 4 months after the car crash, I received a phone call from John Carmichael, our state manager. Now, I was almost the golden boy of the company. But John telephoned me this day and I was really pleased to hear from him. He was a great guy. I said, "How are you, John?" His reply was, "John, there's been some changes made in the company and under the new structure, there's no position for John Maher." I said, "I beg your pardon, mate, what are you talking about?" He said, "There's been some changes made in the company and under the new structure, there's no position for John Maher." And he hung the phone up in my ear. I learned later that the reason he did that was because he was crying as he made that phone call. So what do you think of a car crash now? I'm walking up and down in a hydro pool for 5 months learning to walk properly again and keep the pressure off my neck and back. I'm in counselling. Emma has died in my car crash and I've now lost my job. A car crash is not just a car crash. But of course, that's what happened to me. And I know that you know that lots of people get killed in car crashes and seriously injured in car crashes. But it'll never happen to you, will it? I just want to tell you how cruel life can be and how life doesn't always just hand out red roses. On the 18th of November 1995, just 2.5 years after I had my car crash in which Emma lost her life and I lost my ability to work again, I was told that I would never work again by the specialists in Melbourne. Carmen, my beautiful youngest daughter, was killed in a car crash. Carmen was 18 years and 3 months. And I'm telling you that the most dangerous place in this country is right out there on our roads, because every day someone dies on Australian roads and someone is seriously injured. For every person who dies, 18 people are seriously injured, and of those 18, 2 people never get to leave the hospital or institution that they end up in. I'm now going to tell you how we lost Carmen on that beautiful morning. And it was a beautiful Saturday morning. And this is a photograph of Michelle and Carmen. We were on a plane, we were going to the Gold Coast for a holiday. That was in the January, just 10 months before we lost Carmen. And it was a beautiful Saturday morning. And normally of a Saturday morning, Carmen would sleep in until about 11 o'clock. This particular Saturday morning, Michelle, who was an apprenticed hairdresser and had to work, she went down into the kitchen at 7:30 and here was Carmen sitting at the kitchen table. She was fully dressed, she had her arms on the table, she had her head in her arms and she was asleep. And Michelle got a real shock and said, "Carmen, what are you doing up?" What had happened the night before, Carmen's very best friend, Carmen Trevine, a Year 12 student. Now, these 2 girls had gone through primary school and secondary school together and they were inseparable. They were the best of mates. Carmen Trevine had come out to our place and stayed literally hundreds of times. We lived on a beautiful property 20 minutes outside of Bendigo. Just then Carmen Trevine walked in. She said, "Come on, Carmen, let's go." You see, Carmen Trevine didn't yet have her licence, and our Carmen had to take Carmen Trevine into McDonald's at Kangaroo Flat where she worked part-time of a weekend. So the 2 Carmens went out to the car and Michelle actually went out with them. When they got to the car, Michelle said, "Carmen, you're tired. Wind the window down, turn the wireless up. You'll be right, mate, I'll catch you later." And she gave her a big thumbs up. Now, I was getting dressed in the bedroom and I heard Carmen toot as she went out the front gate for the 20-minute drive into Bendigo. Our girls always gave us a toot as they left home. Michelle had her shower and got ready for work. At 8:10, Michelle got in her car. And I can tell you exactly what Michelle thought and felt that morning because she was so brave that Michelle for 3 years gave these presentations and this part of the presentation with me at secondary colleges because she wanted those kids to understand who they were, that they are the most important person in the world and that they can't do what Carmen has done to us. But Michelle, at about this stage, would start crying. I've seen her cry in front of 400 students, but she would never stop so that they could learn this valuable lesson. Michelle sat in the car and she thought I would have expected Carmen home by now. She drove out the gate, went down to Mackay Highway, which is a T intersection. When you look right, you can see about 1 kilometre up the road, and that's towards Bendigo. And she didn't see a car coming, and she said, thought to herself, "Where's Carmen?" And she said her heart nearly stopped. She turned right and started driving in towards Bendigo. As she was going along, she said her heart started racing. She was literally feeling sick. She said she just knew. She knew that there was something wrong. And she knew that whatever it was to do with Carmen. And can you believe that just 5 short kilometres, 5 kilometres from home, this is what Michelle found. Thank God Carmen had dropped Carmen Trevine off at McDonald's. But can you believe that at 7 minutes past 8 on this beautiful Saturday morning, that my little girl could go to sleep at the wheel at 100 kilometres an hour and crash into this tree and kill herself on us? Poor Michelle, who was 23, pulled over. She went running towards Carmen's car. Thankfully, there was a young policeman there who was the first car on the scene. He saw Michelle. He came out from the car and grabbed her about 2 metres from the car. He said, "Where do you think you're going, young lady?" Michelle said, "That's my sister in that car and I'm going to take her home." He said, "You can't go there." She said, "That's my sister in that car and I'm taking her home." He said, "I'm really sorry, but I can't let you go there." Michelle could see the condition of the car. She then said to him, "Is Carmen all right?" This young policeman burst into tears. He then said to Michelle, "I'm really sorry, but your sister is dead." Michelle was standing 2 metres from Carmen, being told that. Michelle struggled with the policeman. She actually punched him in the face to try and get away from him. She then pleaded with him. She said, "Please let me go to Carmen. She's in that car on her own. I need to be with Carmen. I need to hold Carmen's hand." The policeman said, "I can't let you do that." Michelle then said to him, "But you don't understand. It's my fault that Carmen is dead." On the 17th of May this year, Michelle turned 45 years old. And today, Michelle still blames herself for her sister's death. No one else does. I certainly don't, because I am ashamed to say, and I admit that when I worked, I always drove my car while I was tired, always. And I know that 99.9% of all drivers in this country have driven their car while they're tired. I used to go to Melbourne to head office or out into the country, and on the way home after a big day at work, I'd be 20 k's from home and I'd be nodding, I'd be yawning, I'd wind the window down. That car crash should be me. I should have been the one to educate my family on fatigue, not Carmen. It should have been me. So Ange and I and Jasmine were standing at the back of my car at home because Michelle was raising funds for what was called the Spastic Society of Victoria in those days. Michelle she wanted to do something for people who were less fortunate than us because she was so pleased that I had survived my car crash and we were such a fortunate family. So we had put the tins in the boot of the car and we were waiting. I said, "Let's wait for Carmen. She might like to come in with us." I heard the car come up Hawkins Lane. I looked up expecting to see Carmen driving our driveway. And I saw something that I hope none of you ever get to see. I saw a police car drive in my driveway for the first time ever. And I have never seen it since, thank God. I went over. A young policeman got out of the car, crying. And I said, "Can I help you?" He said, "There's been a car accident and it's Carmen and she's gone." I said, "Where's she gone to?" He said, "It's Carmen and she's gone," and he's crying and blubbering. And I got really mad with him. I said, "Mate, what are you talking about? Where's Carmen gone to?" Just then the back door of the police car opened. I hadn't seen Michelle in the back seat. I'd been focused on the policeman. She got out and she said the words that I can never, ever forget. She said, "Dad, Carmen's dead." Just like that. I heard that my little girl was dead. Jasmine, who's 18 months older than Carmen, she dropped to the ground like a stone. The next thing I know, we're all cuddling each other and crying, including this young policeman. I then said, where has this happened? They said, near the Farmers Arms Hotel. I said, I have to go there, it mightn't be Carmen. So I pulled myself away and went walking really quickly towards my car. Michelle was screaming out from behind me, Dad, don't go there. Please don't go there, Dad. And somehow this young policeman beat me to the door of my car. He put his back up against the driver's side door and he said, please, Mr. Maher, I beg of you, please don't go to the crash scene. Your family needs you here. And that day, I made the biggest mistake of my entire life, and I can never undo it. I stayed with Ange, Michelle, and Jasmine because, yes, they did need me. But you know what this dad didn't do? I didn't go to Carmen. I didn't go to my little girl. I left her in that car on her own. She was only 5 kilometres away and I left her there. And I can never turn back the clock. So those of you who have listened to what happened to us and Carmen on that day, I want you all to do something because this may one day save your life. I want you all to look really closely at me and replace me. This is no longer John Maher standing here. This is your husband or your wife or your mum, or it might be your really brave dad standing here or sitting there. And he's telling the viewers or a group of people what you have done to them when you killed yourself in the car crash. And they're telling them what they had to do next. And no family can avoid this. And we are not unique. There are tens of thousands of families like us in this country who have lost loved ones in car crashes. And they all did this. We went inside. We were sitting at the kitchen table with our arms around each other, saying prayers for Carmen. And then it dawned on me, the policeman has put the kettle on, and it dawned on me, I have to ring Katrina, our second eldest daughter. She's 21 years old. She's working in Sydney in the second largest Bets and Bet shoe store in Australia, and she's the assistant manager. I telephoned the store. Thankfully, the manager answered the phone. I told him what I had to tell Katrina and asked him to stand by and support her. Katrina came to the phone and she's just like the rest of our family. We are so full of life and fun, and we still are. And honestly, we're the happiest family in the world. But this is the phone call that your partner, your mum or your dad or your brother or sister is going to have to make. And I've spoken to Katrina. Before I could say anything, when she answered the phone, she said, Dad, fancy you ringing me on a Saturday morning. I didn't even want to come to work today, Dad. This is sensational. You've made my day. I said, Trina, I've got some really, really bad news to tell you. Trina, there's been a car accident. And Trina, I'm really sorry, but it's Carmen. And Trina, Carmen's dead. What your family member will hear on the other end of the phone will be very similar to what I heard. I heard poor little Trina saying, no, Dad, no, Dad, no, Dad, no, Dad, not Carmen, Dad, no, Dad, no. And then she's dropped the phone in this Bets and Bet shoe store, and I could hear my poor little Trina screaming at the top of her voice, Carmen, 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 Carmen. And I couldn't even put my arms around her to support her. After a lengthy conversation and trying to help Trina through this, I then rang Mum and Dad, Carmen's grandparents. Mum and Dad were both 69 years old. I rang Bungaree hoping that Dad would answer the phone, but of course Mum did. And as we know, mums are really weird people. They have a sixth sense about things. I don't know how. I said, Mum, is Dad there? And she said, John, what's wrong? I said, I just need to talk to Dad. Mum said, John, you tell me what's wrong now. My poor mum and dad were both 69 and they didn't deserve this phone call. I said, Mum, there's been a car accident. And Mum, I'm really sorry. It's Carmen. And Mum, Carmen is dead. My poor old mum screamed out to Dad, Jack, 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 my God, Jack, Carmen's been killed in a car crash. How could I do that to my mum? I broke my mum's heart with that phone call. And you will do the same should you do what Carmen has done. You simply cannot do this. I then turned on the rest of my family. Brendan Carmen's dead, Peter Carmen's dead, Terry Carmen's dead, Gavin Carmen's dead, and my sister Carmel Carmen's dead. Then I turned on Angie's family. Huey Carmen's dead, Jim Carmen's dead, Frank Carmen's dead, and Mari, who lived up at Maroochydore, Carmen's dead. And Jacko Carmen's dead. I then went to the Teledex. Most people have their phone numbers in their iPhones now, but ours were in the Teledex back then. And it was a yellow Teledex with a slider on it. And in that Teledex, there were over 100 names and 100 telephone numbers because they were all my friends, Angie's, Michelle's, Katrina's, and Carmen's friends as well. And I had to ring all of them. In fact, I didn't, because I was breaking down so much at times that poor Ange had to take over and ring some of them. And while we were ringing them and breaking everyone's heart with Carmen's news, telephone calls were coming in. And people were saying, John, please tell me it's not true. And I couldn't. This absolutely changed our lives. Absolutely. But this is truly a family's worst nightmare. On the front right is Michelle. Behind Michelle is Katrina, who was in Sydney. Left-hand front is Jasmine, 18 months older than Carmen. And their cousins are behind them, Lisa, Alison and Julie. And up the very back is my poor old mum and dad behind me. These brave, brave girls are carrying their sister and their cousin out of St. Teresa's Church at the biggest funeral I have ever seen. I had never seen one like it before, and I still haven't seen one. And I just thought Carmen was Carmen. I thought she was just my beautiful little youngest girl. But she was so much more than that. So much more. And now it gives me great pleasure to introduce you to my beautiful daughter, Carmen. I took this video on Christmas Day, just 11 months before we lost Carmen.
Good evening, and I'm Carmen now for the...
Oops, I'm sorry, it didn't work for some reason. That's technology for us, isn't it? Never mind, but that was Carmen, and it was a pretty good little video. And I look at it, and I think I see Carmen. But no, on the 21st of August, and from this video, that is next Monday, Carmen should be turning 40 years old. 40. And she was nearly 18 when I took that video. So what of my family's future? I can tell you categorically that the thing I miss the most about not having Carmen in my life is that I can't give Carmen a cuddle. I would just so love to give Carmen one more cuddle. But I'm the fortunate one in our family because I get to talk about Carmen all the time. And Carmen is very much in all of our lives. And a lot of that is because of these presentations that I give. But here's a message through me from Carmen. You see, I can only continue to do this as long as Carmen is in my life. And she is with me again right now. She spends an hour with me every time I talk about her. And here's her message to all of you. And she's saying to you that today, as soon as you see your loved one, give that loved one the biggest cuddle you have ever given them in your life. And tell them how much you love them. Why? Because you can. We can't do that with Carmen. And after you've cuddled them, when you've cuddled them for long enough, step back and look in their eyes and then make this solemn promise to them. Promise them that you will never do to them what Carmen has done to us, because we can never, ever recover, and no family can ever recover from losing their loved one. You are the most important person in the world to those people who love you so much, and you must stay in their lives forever. I now have 3 magnificent families, and I should have 4. I should have 4. And I have 6 incredible grandchildren. And I go to every sporting event that they have. And every time I have an opportunity to see them, we all live within 20 minutes of each other. And as soon as we see each other, it's the same with my family and my son-in-laws as well. The first thing we all do, we don't shake hands. We give each other a cuddle, because that is the greatest form of affection that there is. And I would give anything to give Carmen one more cuddle. So why are the roads like they are today? In 2016 in Victoria, there were 292 people killed on our roads. That was 40 more than the year before, 40. Now this year, we are fighting back a little bit. We are 28 deaths down on the same time last year. But have a look at this fatal crash in Dandenong last week. This was a 28-year-old driver who sped his car through Dandenong, went through a school fence and ended up in the school against a tree. Look at that car. What everybody must understand, how would it be if you had been a passenger in that car? Now, if you are a passenger, you get in the passenger seat of the car. Then what you do, you put your seatbelt on. And I guess no one has ever thought about what they do next. You gift your life to a driver. You gift your one and only life. That's all we have. One crack at this. You have just given it away to a driver. And that driver owns your life 100%. What have you just done? How would you like to have gifted your life to this driver? The next day, so you thought the other one was bad enough. The next day in Victoria, death number 149 and 150 was a woman and a teenage 14-year-old girl. Her daughter, a 14-year-old girl, were killed in a crash as they left their parent-teacher interviews in Cranbourne. What happened? A young man had had an argument at the pub down the road. He left angry, got in his car, raced down the road past every car in sight, and then finished up crashing into this car and killing these poor innocent people. Our roads are so dangerous. We are driving 2-ton vehicles and we mustn't take risks. And I ask you, is this risk-taking? An L-plater driving at 138 kilometres an hour in a 60 zone. That's risk-taking. And why have the roads changed so much? In the last 15 years, there have been 2 significant changes to road conditions, and it is not the roads themselves. There's always been speeding, but this is where we look at. This is like a lethal weapon in a car. The mobile phone is a lethal and most dangerous weapon in a car. And I'll guarantee every single one of you, as you drive down the road, you have seen people talking on their phone while driving and texting while driving and texting at the lights. And if you are one of those, I beg you never to do it again, because if you don't kill yourself, you will kill an innocent person. We must stop this practice now. This is the best thing that's happened in Victoria, and I presume it's all over Australia. The 0.05 bus has been joined by drug testing. Last year in Victoria, 1 in 482 people tested over 0.05 drink driving. But now there are 1 in 10 people tested positive to drugs last year, and it is still 1 in 10 in Victoria. That should frighten the pants off everyone. 1 month ago, the 9th of the 7th, this was the Sunday Herald Sun. Drug driving poses the greatest crash risk. It's now proven. Drugs overtook alcohol as the major cause of road deaths for first time in 2013. And a record 84 people died last year on Victorian roads while under the influence of ice, ecstasy or alcohol. Now, I am simplistic, but it makes sense to me, doesn't it, that if those people had a designated driver, and we talk about designated drivers with drink driving, what about a designated driver with when someone takes drugs? Let's have someone who's clean. It makes sense to me that if none of those people drove, there would be 84 people alive today living happily with their families. Wouldn't that be an incredible result? Especially for those families, because you see, Carmen was the lucky one the day she died, because Carmen was dead. Those 84 people are the lucky dead people. It's their families and their friends who are trying to live with their loss. They're the ones we need to feel sorry for. We know how hard it is as a family. Ice and ecstasy are the most risky, increasing the chance of a crash by up to 24 times. 24. If you are 0.05, you are twice as likely to have a crash. If you are on ice or ecstasy, 24 times more likely to crash your car, kill yourself, or kill someone else. And that's a good enough reason to see a 24-time movement in your body output and your mind for me never, ever to go near drugs. I'm in Ballarat, in Victoria, and 2 weeks ago, this was the Ballarat Courier. 11 drivers were picked up for drug driving over 4 days in Ballarat, and I'm guessing they didn't catch all of them. We are in serious trouble on our roads right now. And it's not just young people. In fact, it is not the young people. This is a society problem. It's a problem everywhere over every age group. Here's the truckie who was caught behind the wheel of his VW high on ice twice. The defendant told police the items belonged to him that were in the cabin of the truck, $5,000 worth of methamphetamines. He'd purchased them in Brisbane. The reason he bought them, because he used the drugs and he had enough substance to last him the next 42 trips which he embarked on. Do you think his lawyer wants him to take drugs so that he can complete his day of work? Absolutely not. And what about this B-double driver? He is 24 times more likely to drive over the top of yours and my car with our family inside because he's high on ice. If you go down the same track Carmen went down and your family loses you, you may end up with a roadside memorial like we have. The Bendigo City Council put this on the side of the road because so many people visit Carmen's roadside memorial where we lost Carmen. That's where Ange and I visit. We hardly ever go to the cemetery. But when we go there, we take chairs with us. We are that pathetic, and we sit down beside Carmen's roadside memorial and we talk to her. And we spend time where Carmen was last on this earth. And I know that your family will be like us. They'll have plenty of photos of you. We've got heaps of photos of Carmen. Look at her, the youngest one, the cheekiest one in our family, the life of our family. And we lost Carmen through a very avoidable car crash. Carmen went to sleep at the wheel. And I can tell you, I still get tired when I'm driving. But as soon as I feel I'm getting tired, I pull over immediately because of Carmen's experience. I set my phone alarm. I take it out of my pocket and set the alarm for 15 to 20 minutes. But when the alarm goes off, and I have a power nap straight away, go to sleep like that. When the alarm goes off, I don't just drive off. I get out of the car and I go for a brisk walk. And I wake myself up properly, get the wind in what hair I've got left, and I wake myself up, and I'm then a safe driver for myself and my family and for other road users. If I don't have time to have a power nap, I'll still stop and I'll get out of the car and I will run up the road and run back again. One day I was doing that in the rain because I was tired, but I refused to continue on, and there were 10 cars that tooted at me. And I know exactly what those drivers were thinking. What does that silly old bald bloke think he's doing? I'll tell you what I'm doing. I'm making 100% certain that I do not do to what is left of my family what Carmen has done to us. I cannot do that to my family. And fatigue, it's proven, kills 25% of all people who are killed on our roads. 1/4 of all deaths on our roads are fatigue related. So you cannot do that either. You must pull over. I'm at an exciting time because it's taken me 16 years because this book has been so hard to write, to put down in word, particularly the chapters where I talk about Carmen losing her life. I cried and I cried and I cried and I stopped. But I have hoped to release the book on the 18th of November, the anniversary date of Carmen's death. There are a couple of the sample covers that I've just put together myself. I'll get some done properly. Carmen also has a Facebook page. I would love you to visit Carmen's Facebook page. It's facebook.com Carmen Road Safety. Some amazing comments from students and adults and teachers and parents are on Carmen's Facebook page. It has nearly 11,000 likes. It has a life of its own. I put an item on there, a video of Carmen on there. It had 27,000 views. Visit Carmen's Facebook page. It plays a role in life safety, in road safety. And guys, I'm telling you, you just never know what's around the corner. Anything is possible. Anything can happen. And when I give talks at schools and corporate events, and this morning I gave a talk at Power Core at 7:30 in Melbourne, and 100 of their line workers and the people who go out and fix the lines at 1 o'clock in the morning and 5 o'clock in the morning and drive all over the state heard how we lost Carmen, and there was hardly a dry eye in the place. And they all learnt a lesson on how important they are to their family and to their business. And every single one of them got one of Carmen's one of Carmen's bookmarks. On here I have a photo of Carmen and fatigue written all over it, plus my details. But on the back is the piece of gold that everyone gets at schools and at corporate events. When I had my car accident, Carmen was just 15 years old when she thought that she might have lost her dad in a car crash. And I was in intensive care when she gave me the Get Well card. And this is the wording that Carmen put on my Get Well card. She said, "Dad, I love you. I love you more than anything. The feeling of darkness, the feeling of loneliness, the feeling of not having a father nearly broke my heart. The feeling of not seeing you was like a bomb going off inside of me. The thought, the pain that went through us all was like a nothing that swept our hearts, a nothing that dug deeper and deeper every minute, every second of the day. But then to hear your voice and to see your face, it gave me that love that every one of us thought we had lost. I love you, Dad. I love you more than anything. Love, Carmen." And then 2.5 years later, just 2.5 years later, we lost our beautiful Carmen. Life isn't always fair. But here today, I trust that all of you have learned a great lesson on road safety and on who you are, the most important person in the lives of those people who love you so much. You simply cannot leave them in the way that Carmen has left us. And I want to thank you all for allowing my family and me, and in particular, for allowing Carmen into all of your lives here today. And I wish you great safety on our roads. And if anyone would like to get in touch with me and get me to your event, your business, I would just love more businesses to bring Carmen's road safety to their employees, because every employee uses the road to get to work, uses it to get home again. Many use it while working because that's part of their employment. And we need to have as many people as safe as they can possibly be on the roads. We do make a difference, and we can make a difference. And I'd love to bring Carmen to your workplace. There are my details. Contact me and I'll be there.